societal outcast in popular Hebrew society. Jesus had, could we borrow from Carlos? No specific pride or haughtiness or self-importance, though he certainly could have. It's not how he carried himself. Not at all. What other name was Jesus given by the angel? This maybe is more to the answer as to part of the style of the man, of the Son of God. What other name was this one given by the angel? Emmanuel, which means?
God with us.
Do you think that just means God with us as God is on our side? Yes, it means that. But God was with us. Common people. Mary and Joseph. And angels appeared to shepherds. And yes, there were wise men. Maybe they were kings. I don't know. Wise men came to visit them when they were in the manger, right? When they couldn't stay in the inn. God was with humanity. People like us. So do you see how it's not far outreaching or way out of thought to see, yes, the Son of God, mighty and holy and pure, being with common people. I take it that perhaps some small part of this decree, this God with us, would include the Son of Man being amongst humanity and seeing and smelling and tasting and, yes, feeling what we go through on a day-to-day basis. Right? What else is said in the New Testament? He was in all points tempted like as we are. He went through the same things that we go through. Type of things. Not the exact same temptation, but the same things. So, could God have done that distantly? I see what they go through. I see that they fall a lot. And I hear the adversary accusing them to me all the time. See, they just keep falling. They just keep lying. They keep killing each other. They never learn. But rather, in the appointed time, God came and was with humanity. Yes, in this wedding feast. Yes, with harlots and sinners. Yes, with tax collectors and publicans. What's the point? Jesus was not afraid to be with people, common people, sick people, cast-offs of society. For who had given these any real consideration or time? Nobody. The religious upper crust giving guys chances that no one else did. Is that a good example? Is that someone you would be drawn to? Or would you be drawn to the Pharisees who love wearing the purest robes and love praying long time in the marketplaces and the high places and seeing the Sadducees who are nothing but covetous? Who would you be drawn to? Who would you listen to? God with us. Yes?
I think it speaks to just a trait that we see in people that is, one is attractive and the other is repulsive, and that is humility and arrogance. That's the exact, traits that we can associate in this example to Jesus and the Pharisees. And we see that if we see that in someone, if we see humility in someone, it's someone that we want to be with, we enjoy spending more time with. Whereas if we see arrogance in someone, that's someone that has limited, we want to have limited contact with, just because it is a very repulsive trait, because nobody wants to be around the scribes and the Pharisees, holding their nose up at everybody, thinking that they're superior to everybody else, and elevating themselves and wanting to be elevated by the people, where Jesus, he was deserving of bowing down, of worship, of kissing his feet. He was deserving of all that, and yet that was, he was with the people, like you've pointed out.
Mark well what side of that haughty or humble or having humility or arrogance. Mark well how we are outside of these walls. At any rate, any other questions or comments? Let's move on a little bit here in this block of text. As the beloved apostle wrote, it is worth considering the mother of Jesus' comment and the master's answer to her. Some commentators have guessed that Mary likely was a blood relative of the bridegroom. I kind of mentioned that before. Some commentators have suggested that. It seems that may be likely because she tells the servants to do something and they do it. I don't know that just a common guest could have said that to the servants of the master of the house. I'm not sure that would go over. Which would make Jesus part relative as well to the bridegroom. This might be reasonable. She was able to come across the problem. Even before she tells them anything, Mary is able to ascertain and come across that there is a problem at this feast. And I don't know if everyone knows that they're out of wine, but Mary understands that they are very near or out of wine. She comes across it, as I can see here, in a quiet way, because Mary does not divulge all the information to everyone. She tells this to Jesus. How she discovered this, we don't know. To run out of food or wine, here's the thing. Now, it would still be embarrassing if you are entertaining people, and even if you have more than you thought you would have, and you run out of food, it is considered, would be rude. You would be embarrassed, would you not? Consider that to be something of a societal mark against you. If you were just married, this is your celebration of your matrimony that would last for 7-8 days, and you're expected to provide a good time and entertainment and food and happiness, and the food or drink would run out. This is something that would stay with you the rest of your life. People would see you. Oh, we were there and we had to cut instead of 7 days, we could only go 3. It would have been a mark of embarrassment. To run out of food or wine in such a celebration would be severe embarrassment for the bridegroom. Why did Mary say anything at all? Why did Mary even say anything? Do you think? Oh, I kind of already gave it there, right? It would be embarrassing. And she clearly cares. Likely she was a blood relative of the bridegroom. Which can also be asked, what were Mary's this is more to the point. What were Mary's intentions for asking this question? Or saying this at all? She doesn't have, to make this statement. What were Mary's intentions in making this comment to her son? And we might get to that, Ken, what you wanted to talk about. Like, how did she know? We might get to some of that tonight. But that maybe is what it was. In footnote 4, in our class book, Brother Willis points out that it is quite possible that Jesus and his mother spoke of what was coming. It's not in Scripture. We don't know much about the life of Jesus after that time when he was about 12 years old and lingered behind in the temple asking questions and being asked questions. From that moment until his time with being baptized with John, we don't know much or anything at all in those interim years. But footnote 4, if I have it right, Brother Willis points out it's quite possible Jesus and his mother spoke of what was pending, what was coming, what was the expected time perhaps. His earthly ministry beginning after his own baptism by John the Baptist. And understand, what did John say when he saw Jesus? We studied this sort of at length probably last month. What did John the Baptist exclaim when he saw Jesus during those days that we spoke about in John chapter 1? How did John describe Jesus, seeing him afar off? What did John say about Jesus?
Behold the Lamb of God.
To everybody that could hear that, right? So that's jump-starting it in a way. This is the one that you need to look for. This is the one in whom I've been preparing the way for. It's kind of loud, kind of broadcast. We have noted in past lessons how Mary and Joseph certainly knew that their son was special, both having been visited by angels to give information and allay anxieties. Both Joseph and Mary were visited by angels about this same one. You think that's interesting? I don't know how often angels came to visit humanity. I know from Malachi to Matthew there's a period sort of a biblical silence. I don't know how commonplace it was for angels to visit humanity in that time. And I can't speak on that. But both Joseph and Mary were visited by angels and were told about this one, this baby that would be born. This statement of Mary to her son does not necessarily have to be interpreted as her shoving Jesus into the spotlight, as it were. It doesn't have to be necessarily interpreted that way, because the comment was directly made to everyone at their table or their couch. Couch probably is more accurate. They wouldn't sit at tables. They would recline sort of at these couches or benches. She doesn't say it to everybody. She says it to Jesus alone. They have no wine. She says this to Jesus. Where am I on my notes? Sorry about that. The place where they would have been seated would have been rather large, and the fact that she only speaks to the servants after Jesus responds to her clue us in that Mary did not wish to have this predicament openly known amongst the merrymakers. Do we see that? I'm not certain that this is Mary trying to thrust Jesus or push the boulder off the mountain, so it is, to start things quickly, because she also tries to keep things quiet. So let's ask the question. Let's back up a little bit. Why do you think Mary thought Jesus could do something about this? Now, Ken, lay it out.
The one thing that she knows for certain that's been revealed to us is that he was the Son of God. And depending on your faith in God and understanding what God can do, she would not have to have seen a miracle. She and Jesus would have never even had to discuss it. As long as she believed that he was the Son of God, there was no limit to what she knew her son could be capable of doing.
And after the angel, what does she say? As you have said, so be it. I paraphrase. And then I think she says to Elizabeth, I'm the handmaiden of the Lord. It seems that whenever that was, about, 30 odd years prior to this event, as Jesus was not yet in her womb, but as the angel was speaking with her, her faith was great. A girl, as I've told Kenan, honestly, I don't know exactly how old Mary would have been when the angel visits her. She's betrothed to Joseph, certainly. Perhaps late teens. Something to think teenager of the line of Judah in captivity, or at least living amongst Roman occupiers, of all the people. We talk about ratios. I talk about ratios. Of all of the women that could have ever given birth to anyone, there was one that God saw, this will work. She can do it. And her response to the angel then, in Luke's account, bears that out. And so you're right. Maybe she doesn't need to have had a discussion or discussions plural with Jesus to know that this my son is the Son of God. I imagine being visited by an angel, that would stick with me. Would it stick with you?
And the virgin birth.
And the virgin birth. I've never known a man. She asks a question. She doesn't doubt. She just asks the question. How can this be? I've never known a man. Lots of things add up to that. And maybe that's all it was. Maybe there weren't discussions about this. It is more reasonable to see this as Mary wanting the bridegroom to save face. There was a predicament. There was an issue. She cared for these ones. Jesus was family to them, and Mary was family to them. I don't want them to be embarrassed. This is the start of their lives together. I don't want it to start this way for them. But I know that this situation can be fixed. Whatever her intentions or thoughts happen to be in that moment, it does not force her son into a predicament. It does force her son into a predicament of his own. So I don't know her intentions. Maybe it's a mixture of all the things we've discussed. Why she tells Jesus quietly they've run out of wine. But it does sort of paint Jesus into a corner of sorts. If Jesus did nothing, the bridegroom would suffer embarrassment. If Jesus performed a miracle for the first time, then there would be no way to keep that quiet without affecting. Why might it be important for this miracle to be kept as quiet as possible? I have my answer, but I want to know what you think. Why might Jesus have wanted a miracle? And this isn't the only time that he wants to keep things as quiet as possible. What does he tell some of the men that he's healed or people he's healed? Don't tell this to anybody. Because once this miracle is known, and word travels fast, you don't have to text in order to work for word to travel. I'm sure if news of a miracle happened, it would spread from not just in Cana, but to the next town and the next town and the next town. If this miracle is broadcast, what will that do? What's one perhaps unintended consequence, but a consequence of that? Everybody would want it. It's a piece of it, sure, but would that not affect man's ability to choose? We've seen evidence already in chapter 1 of Jesus' ability to see within someone's heart, to know them. We have hints of Jesus' omniscience. It's possible that in this account, Jesus already knew the host had run out of wine. Is that possible? That Jesus already knew that? Certainly, if God is omniscient and knows everything, Jesus was keenly aware of the situation. Jesus responds, we might consider. I don't know, does anyone have something else there? Jesus said to her, is another translation, what does it have? I have New King James, but is American Standard, English Standard Version different? Does it still say woman? Now, what we might consider, Jesus' response might be considered today as rude. But we have to quit. So I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. And we'll get to more next week about his response and the miracle itself. Thank you for your attention.
almost to the point of it becoming a detriment in our life. You too patient waiting in line when you need to be served, and the clerk or the employee is not being diligent in their job, and you're needlessly wasting time, and you're just afraid to even speak up and to ask even politely. You know, if you could have some attention. So very few of us like to be the center of attention. And again, is that attitude or that fear of attention limiting our ability to function in this life, but more importantly, is it limiting our service to God? And Randy, you mentioned our discussion of the men's devotion last night. Randy led us in the discussion of Psalm 100. It is about the premise of public praise is expected of all of God's creation. And it was a very thought-provoking and challenging concept. And I'm not going to reteach Randy's perspective on that. I'm going to let him do that at another time and talk to us about Psalm 100. But I want to go to Acts chapter 2, read verses 40 through 47, and then maybe make some observations about what it looks like to be a Christian, a new Christian, and how we are to bring a little bit of attention not necessarily to ourselves, but to our new master. Acts 2:40 through 47. With many other words he bore witness and continued to exhort them, saying, "Save yourselves from this crooked generation." So those who received his word were baptized, and were added that day about 3,000 souls. And they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, and to fellowship, and the breaking of bread, and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. These brand new Christians were so zealous and so glad, so joyful, that they were out there attracting attention to themselves. And how rare it is that we actually see a new convert who embodies that. I've been privileged to know a couple. And I'm afraid that perhaps even I myself fell short. I can remember that long car ride from the little building at Plainview, Ohio, down in the middle of Monroe County. Had to go about 12 miles north to Woodsfield to a building that even had a facility, had a baptistry. And I can remember thinking over and over, I'm going to be saved. But I'm kind of more of a quiet celebrator. As many of us are, we do not like to express our emotions. We don't like to express our sorrow, nor do we like to let go and express our joy. When it seems, according to Psalm 100 and even to this example of these brand new Christians in Acts chapter 2, is that God expects us to cut loose a little bit and to reveal what's in our hearts. And look at what they were doing. They devoted themselves to the teaching, to being together, the fellowship and the observing of the Lord's Supper, and in praying together and coming together daily at the temple, which is where they would have studied and taught and had spiritual discussions. They were looking out for each other. If there were needs, they were making sure that those were met. And they were even spending time in each other's homes daily. Their meals were joyful. Their discussions were joyful. Their studies were joyful. They praised God. They were attracting attention to their salvation. And above all, in verse 47, they were praising God, and this brought favor. We're afraid of attention. I'm afraid of us here wants to be saved? You're even welcome to raise your hand if you want to. How many of us want to be saved?
Amen.
But how many of us, want to attract attention by coming up to the front pew and stating our confession in Christ? It's a little intimidating, because I remember the night that I was baptized. It was the white knuckles on the back of the pew, and I didn't go forward during that invitation hymn. But my mother knew what was going on in my heart, and she, right after the final amen, whispered to me, "Do you want to be baptized?" And I nodded yes. And I got to speak to the evangelist at the back door. And then I got some of that undue attention. It's like, whoa, stop everything. Let's all get in our cars and let's go to the baptistry and take care of this. What I'm saying to you is, I was afraid. I know what it feels like. But you don't have to be. Because the joy that you will feel, the relief that you will feel when you come up out of that water and you realize that you indeed are going to be saved, that you are saved, there is no feeling like it. And I just hope that in your life that you can do better than I've ever done in expressing your praise and your gratitude and your appreciation to your God for your salvation. And if that's something that you would like to take advantage of tonight, even if you as a Christian want to recapture that feeling by having some sin or burden lifted from your heart by confession and prayer, we're happy to do that too while we sing our invitation song. Why did the Savior heavenly had come to earth below, when his grace would not receive, because he loves me so. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me, this I know. He gave himself to die for me, because he loves me so. Why did the Savior mark the way, and why temptation know? Why teach and toil and plead and pray, because he loves me so. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me, this I know. He gave himself to die for me, because he loves me so. Why feel the garden's dreadful drops? Why through his trials go? Why suffer death upon the cross? Because he loves me so. He loves me, he loves me, he loves me, this I know. He gave himself to die for me, because he loves me so. Well, we're so grateful that you were here tonight. Looking forward to worshiping again with you this coming Lord's Day morning. Please be safe getting home. There's some debris on the roads. The deer are running prolifically across the highway, so please be vigilant, be careful, and may we all arrive home safely. Please do give consideration to the things that we've learned tonight, both in our classes and in our devotion, to praise God, be thankful, and be diligent to express that gratitude and appreciation to Him. I've asked Gary Robinson to lead us in prayer, and after that we'll be dismissed.
Let's please all join together in prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, as we've come to the end of this service here, Father, we're so thankful that you have permitted us safe travels here. And Father, I pray that we all have got good from our studies tonight and our different classes. And I pray that we'd be able to strengthen our faith with that and be able to teach others, Father, your word out in the world. We're so thankful, Father, for all the many blessings you give us and all that you do for us. We just pray that you'd continue to see and bless us as you see our needs. Dear Father, we want to pray for those who have been mentioned on the sick list. Be with all them, Father, especially our sister Melanie. Be with her mother, Father, as she's suffered a lot of health issues, and comfort Melanie, Father, as she goes through this trying time with her mother. Be with all those, Father, that we've been mentioning on the sick list in the past. Help them back to their health. We pray that you'd see us home safely as we depart here, Father, and as it be your will, bring us back, Father, at the next appointed time, which would be on the Lord's Day morning. Forgive us of our sins and go with us. We ask it in Jesus' name, and amen.